Thank you for tuning in to Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. I am music producer Achickwitbeatz.
And I am serial entrepreneur Breezy Gipson.
Yeah, so we're glad that you tuned in to join us today. You know, another great show lined up as usual. Of course, we've got beats by yours truly, and our homeboy Shon Cobain is coming through to share his knowledge and wisdom. And so, yeah, it's always a good time when he comes and, shares his wisdom with us.
Yeah.
All right. So, without any further ado, let's go ahead and kick this off with the featured beat of the week and some more tunes, and then we'll be right back after this.
All right.
radio show with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson on Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Sparks Radio out of Denver, Colorado. listening to Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson on the Music Marvels radio show.
Thank you for tuning in to Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. We're excited, thrilled, and delighted to announce that back in the virtual building with us once again for another gem dropping session is the one, the only Shon Cobain. How you feeling?
Proud, got my bravos. I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. We're glad to have you back. It's always a pleasure, isn't it, Breezy?
Oh yeah. Hey, he's in the driver's seat. Always got plenty of great info, profound thoughts, meaningful actions that are taking place here or there. And so, today is no different. So I'm glad that you're back, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a pleasure to be here. It's actually something I actually look forward to. This has probably been the most pleasant experience in my 4 years or so of the business. I actually always look forward to this.
Awesome. Yeah, so why don't you let us know what you got for us today?
So
Mm-hmm.
today, we're gonna get right to the meat and potatoes. I kind of came down. Well, I have 10 suggestions that I would give, and it's just more or less almost is going to be confessions, right? Because I can give you real world experiences since I started. Mm-hmm. And these are about the 10 things that I run into commonly, and not just for myself, but just for creators in general, and especially in this industry. And today I'm really focusing on the challenges of being the owner of a media company and attempting to manicure talent in a way. Mm-hmm. So right now we're headed to a different age. And that's one thing I love about this business is it's ever changing. So about every 5 years or so, you're going to have something that comes in and it's going to set the business on fire. And it's typically really nothing even major other than artists understanding leverage in negotiation. And typically where the leverage comes from is the most successful artists, and they kind of hand that down because they said, well, in legal terms, it's called precedent. And all of that matters. So what people have to understand is it doesn't matter what you're doing. The entertainment business is still a corporation, and they all operate fundamentally the same, absolutely the same. I don't care. That's why you have billionaires who started, computer and software companies, and then all of a sudden are giving you advice on pandemics. Because people only care if you're right and you're great at something one time. They assume that you're great at everything, and you must know something that they don't.
Wow.
And realistically, the people and one of the things that, a couple of things that I want to tap into are going to highlight those things. I read a lot of books. Don't necessarily rely on information too much. Not a lot of YouTube. It's some value there, but the problem with YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, you kind of bring in these things is they make high level statements, and without any formal knowledge, people just go. And I can tell because they just go. They get the high level statement and then they say it, and it's like, okay, well, how does it work? And then it's stammering and okay, well, that's the problem. And so that's the thing we're going to start with. So I kind of started off with 10 things. Started getting through them clearly. And these are 10 things, 10 challenges or suggestions as well that I could have for managers or media company owners, right? Because we started off as a record label. And as we started off as a record label with an artist, the business is already changing. And it was more or less media driven, right? So it's multimedia. You have to have the videos, you have to have commercial, you have to have the whole package. So in that, one of the first things that I'll tell you actually is you can't do it alone. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible to do it alone in this business. And what you can't do, you must pay someone to do. And it has to be at a decent rate, right? A lot of people want to haggle for the service price for other people's services, and then they're worried about the outcome. Well, price points are set to be motivational as well. So if you're paying someone work for hire and you're badgering them over the price, right? You never even took in consideration, their business goals, their fundamentals, and none of that. So now this person is just taking the money for its opportunity, it's for their, exposure, just for whatever it is. And they're not really happy. They're not really committed. And that's where you see a lot of the issues on the back end. So my number one before, when you get into anything, is you have to have mental clarity. You have to be at peace. You can't be at war in your personal life, whatever, because that's always going to hinder your process. And at the moment that you get going, the one thing that can go wrong, which is Murphy's Law, right? Will.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So we wonder why successful people are so disconnected. Well, in a sense, they have to be. Because if you're tied to what's going on in the world every day and you have any level of empathy in you, you're going to be affected by what happens around you. So you kind of have to be disconnected in a sense and already be in your own world, or be locked into your own world. It doesn't mean be disconnected from life, right? But it doesn't mean that you have to be up to speed with everything that's going on, every trend, everything that's popular. It's a waste of your time. So mental clarity.
I just brought that topic up with Achickwitbeatz less than an hour ago.
And I say that because, I think about a little over a month and a half or so, I announced publicly that I'm taking a break from entertainment. And, I got some messages about it, and the people didn't necessarily understand. I said I'm taking a break. I didn't say I was quitting. And it was just one of those things because I lost my mental clarity. So all of a sudden, I abandoned my business plan, I abandoned everything because you have life going on, you have everything else. And then in year 4, I'm not going to lie, a little frustrated that, to scale that things haven't gone even partly to my plan, right? And that's the second part. Business plan. That's number 2. You can't go and form, or say if you want a brick and mortar business, right? And you don't necessarily have the money. In order to secure capital, you don't just go to the bank and they just run your credit and they say, okay, I'll have this idea and I need, $10,000, $20,000 so I can get me a studio front and I can pay the money back and it'll start in XYZ. Okay, they're gonna look at you and they're gonna say, okay, where's your business plan? Well, I just gave it to you. You're going to leave with a denial. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the thing about loans, and that's part of business plans, loans, and you really shouldn't be looking at loans, maybe grants. You definitely should be looking at grants and grant writers that write for entertainment, right? It doesn't matter if you get a grant writer that knows how to write for schools because it's not the same business. It's not the same entity. It's like having a lawyer and having a business lawyer. So you need a business plan. And if you don't know how to develop a business plan, there are many services out here. I'm not going to shout any of them out because they don't pay us. I don't know if anybody pays you, but there are many where you can go online and you can learn, or you can pay someone. I think I paid a guy $150 to write a business plan for me at one point. And the amount of time and the knowledge that he has, I give him the meat and potatoes and the high level statement. He goes on about his day, and guess what? I can focus on another part of my business. So a business plan is important. You have to have a business plan, and it has to be written down. It can't be in your head. It can't even be in your phone. It has to be written down so it's real. And it's something that's tangible. You can feel it. You have to feel it. The third thing is validation. You have to validate your business, and not validation in the streets. It has to be properly protected. If that's publishing, trademark, you have to be an entity, and it has to be this. You're not going to, if you're not recognized by the IRS, it's not a real business. And you set yourself up for things, because then, say for instance, you're having a show or you're doing something and someone gets hurt. If you don't have a business, guess who gets sued? You.
Yeah.
LLCs and S corps and all that stuff, it protects people. That's the whole reason why we have them. And it does cost a little money to it, but it's tangible, right? It's not as expensive as everyone wants to make it seem. And then, what's your goal? You have to have a goal. That's number 5. You have to have a goal. It has to be something. You have to have a tangible goal for yourself, right? Where I was making a mistake is all of my goals were oriented in the success of other people, which means I'm only going to go as far as they're motivated or as far as they can for whatever reason.
Wow.
But guess what? Those people, the first thing that they do when things go wrong is they cut ties with you because they have nothing invested, right? So you have to make sure that you understand your goal, you understand your work, and having a goal is making sure that you align yourself with people, with like-minded people. And like-minded people doesn't necessarily mean people that do the same things that you do, and it doesn't mean attach yourself to people that have the same struggles as you. Because if you attach yourself to people that have the same struggles as you, you're going to only be as high as they fail. Wow. Because every mistake you're attached to at this point, right? It's like when people, oh, I want you to manage me. No, you don't, because it's a marriage. And I get all the bad stuff too, right? And it's like any other relationship. You don't always learn everything about someone. Now, I've never been married, but I've heard enough. You don't learn everything about someone sometimes until you're locked in with that person, right? And then you start to learn all the little things, you know, right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah.
My sixth thing is, I hear this a lot: experience is the best teacher. That statement sets you up for failure without context. Experience is not always the best teacher because you won't always get a second chance. Right? Oh. And I'll go back to even as recent, right? You watch the NBA. Most people watch the NBA playoffs. Even if you're not a fan, there's just something about playoff basketball. And I watched an interview with Jaylen Brown, and one of the things, you know, I hear him say, you know, oh, we're young and blah, 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 we're learning. And I'm like, well, Dan Marino was young too. And, you know, as a rookie, you go to the Super Bowl and you think, man, I got at least another 10 years to go. I'll get there again. And he never made it. It's not even that he got a chance to get in the game and lose again. He just never made it back. Hall of Fame career, you know, but he never got a second chance. So the second chance is not always there. And experience comes from wisdom. So you have to learn lessons from other people. You don't want to keep learning hard lessons. Life is too short, and it takes time to recover from mistakes.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again? Like, I feel like that needs underlining right there.
Which part? I kind of threw some things out
about
there.
The experience.
Yeah, experience is not always the best teacher. You won't always get a second chance. Okay, and that's the high level statement. That's when you follow high level statements, those are the things that you really need to look at and you need to think about in your life. How many times you didn't get a chance to make something right, or how many times people, even when people pass on, you got to think about it. They didn't get a chance to make something right because they thought they had tomorrow. You don't get a second chance. Your second chance is in the moment. So live more in the moment. That's the other part too. We focus so much on the past and we focus so much on the future, like anxiety, the depressions and all that. That's where it comes from. You're focusing on past. You're focusing on the future. And we forget the present. You can't look so far ahead that you're not looking down, because you're going to trip over what's ever in front of you. Okay. If there, you know, it might be a gap in the sidewalk, you know, it could be construction there. You're walking with your head in the air because you're looking too far forward. Guess what? You're going to meet your demise. And number 7, my thing is, you have to ask yourself real questions. Are you a creator or are you an innovator? I think most people think they're the same. And I'm like, they're not, right? Because you hear the terms all the time. There's nothing new under the sun. Well, there are a lot of smart people in this world. There are a lot of people with ideas. And then not everyone just has ideas, right? It's an idea until you put it forward, right? A plan of action. And I'll get more into that. Actually, I have an example. 8, does your circle in your daily routine reflect your goals? The people around you are more important almost than your habits, because the right people will push you into good habits. You have to elevate the level of company around you. If everyone around you, if you're comfortable with them, that means you're not in a circle of growth, because because growth only comes out of comfort, right? Or growth only comes when you're uncomfortable, sorry. So you think about discomfort, right? When you work out, a lot of people look at working out as an intangible result, and it's not true. It's a tangible result. The next day when you work up and you're sore, now it's the difference between sore and hurting, right? That's the other part about doing it right. You don't want to be hurting. You want to be sore. Because as you're sore and you're working out, that means those muscle fibers are tearing and they're shredding and they're trying to figure out what's going on. We have to repair it. That's where you get the growth. You know, the growth doesn't happen while you're in the action. It comes afterwards. And if you do it right, the fruits of your labor will soon show.
Wow.
That's why 6 consistent months at anything. And if you're not getting better, you're not consistent. That's the other part. And don't confuse activity with productivity. Productivity and activity are 2 totally different things. Don't spin your wheels. It is a waste of your time. Oh, number 9, expect to fail at something. There's no way you're going to get in this business and do something and be 100% there, right? And I'll give you a prime example. We had an opportunity to get on the mixtape with Jadakiss, right? And it was back in the pandemic when he was airing these things, and people, looking at these things as a scheme. Right away, I understand, hey, they're not touring, they have to find a way to have revenue. But it was really authentic. Well, in the mix-up, we switched platforms for, the deal was discussed, and we ended up missing a window because, everyone that's handling Instagram, or a person that's handling Instagram might not be the person that's handling Facebook. Or, handling whatever else. So you have to strike while it's hot. Okay. If it's there, stay there. And once you get someone's attention, you have to be ready. You don't have time to get ready, because right away he's like, send a track, send this, send that. Hey, Absolutely. We sent the money. Yep. He was right away. We sent it, but we missed it, and thankfully for us, he was honest enough to where they sent the money back.
Oh, wow.
And you won't always get that. Yep. So shout out to Jadakiss. I've always been a fan of Jadakiss. I didn't make it then, but what that told me is this: he's going to do this again, right? And the next time I'm going to be ready, right? Next time we're going to be ready, because now we know what not to do. So, and another part to that too is sometimes it works out because the opportunity, it's written for you. The opportunity presented itself. It didn't follow through. And then the person that was the focal point of the opportunity washed out. So you think about opportunity, then you get it, you're ready, and all of a sudden things are going, and then someone decides that they're no longer committed. You're dead in the water. And number 10, are you happy? It doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter what you're striving for. You have to be happy. And it has to be a source for yourself. And I actually had this blown up recently, last night, as a matter of fact. And the question to me was simple, or statement was, I hear all the goals that you have for your daughter. I hear all the goals that you have for your mother, but I haven't heard you say anything about yourself, about what you want. And then I had to think about it. And I was like, well, it's such a simple question, but it really made me put things in perspective, because if I'm not happy in my pursuit, I'm not at my best. And being happiness is a full concept. And those 9 things that I listed before, it's not everything, right? But those are more or less the high level statements. And those are the things that you really have to look at. And if you go through those 10 things and then you go back and you ask yourself, am I happy? Man. You'll start to reveal things in the process that you don't necessarily enjoy, that you accept it because society or business tells you that's the norm. And realistically, it's not, because you're either a creator or you're an innovator. So you can either create your pain or you can innovate your way out of it.
Man, he came through with the 1-2 punch again, didn't he?
One more time. Yes, he did. He did. I mean, and this is great stuff to inspire a whole lot of folks, to look in the mirror and see if they like what they see, or see if they like what they are doing.
Yeah. And I'm glad you actually said that, because my moment of clarity came with a real life issue. And I remember one day, about 3 years ago, I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize the face that was looking back at me. And that was one of the most important times of my life, because it put everything in perspective, right? Everything that I thought I was doing, everything, realistically, I know that wasn't rooted in my happiness. I was just accepting and doing. And a lot of times you're marginalized by people who feel like they missed their opportunity, right? So it's a question I was asking people. I started asking, it's a question I'm gonna keep asking. How old were you the first time an adult stepped on your dream? So you think about how many young people, when they're young, right? When they're young, you're told that you can do anything, right? I want to be this, I want to be that. Okay, cool. Then when kids get a certain age, 5th, 6th grade type of, I'm just kind of thinking about it. They're told to be realistic.
Yeah.
So 40-year-old person who's unhappy with life, who hasn't achieved any goals, any of personal goals, right? Personal goals, because people achieve goals all the time, but they're not happy because that was never their goal.
Right.
You have to allow children to dream, right? because children are the innovators. Children make the difference. When you think about it, every generation has gotten better because people have developed, right? For the most part, except for it's one class of people out here that's just causing a whole lot of ruckus. But you'll always be consumed, right? You'll always be consumed because you can't stop what's meant to be. You can dig in and you can fight. You can fight to the very end, but you will never stop what's meant to be. It's just not possible. You may win a couple battles, but you will always lose that war. So, and it's also being rooted in intention. If you do not have well intentions, everyone is not going to sit there and argue with you. Eventually, you're going to meet your demise. You understand? Like, it doesn't matter if it's personally, professionally. Everyone runs their course. Everyone. And you can't look at success as an end all and be all or end all and cure all. Because, okay, I'll give you an example. Look at Tiger Woods, right? I remember being a kid and he was on top of the world.
Yeah.
On top. He didn't do anything criminal. You know, he had personal issues with his wife and, whatever they had, personal issues in his life. And the moment they had something strong enough, the media, the same media that hyped him, that built him up, they started tearing him down.
Big time.
Yep. Off of one, he didn't hurt anyone. That's the thing about it. He didn't hurt anyone. He didn't do anything. So now all of a sudden you have a bunch of people who have no morals that suddenly are the judges. And that carries over to society. And misery loves company, right? Because everyone else they want people to be accessible, right? So that's why they love seeing successful people go through hardships, because all of a sudden now they're a person too. So you can't, you can't do it for the culture. And that's one of the things I said it last time. It's one of the hardest mistakes. Showing love is very expensive. It's an expensive teacher. And I believe that was a Joe Budden. Sorry, it's Lloyd Banks. Showing love is an expensive teacher. And it resonated with me, and I can tell people, and I can say honestly, for one, I have the receipts, and plus I do my taxes. I'm over 100,000 invested in my personal business, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be. This is my money, legit money, or what I'm saying. It doesn't matter, how grant money. It doesn't matter. It's still money that you secured, your people secured. That's all. It's our money. When I say mine, I'm just saying like it's our, because it's always a team. Shout out to Keys. But yes, it's full circle, and you have to be at peace. You have to have clarity, and you have to have the right people around you, and you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. If you're comfortable doing it, you're not growing. There's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable. Nothing at all. Okay, that means you just have to keep doing it until you get comfortable.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting for someone to walk through a door that's locked. Meanwhile, there are doors out here open, and someone is waiting for you. That's why you can't stop. You can't stop at the first no. I think I watched Byron Allen, billionaire, owns the Weather Channel. He was turned down by over 200 something banks to buy the Weather Channel. Yep. Over 200 something banks in the United States of America. A lot of no's. And he said he just had a plan. He just stuck with it. All it takes is one yes. And a lot of us are looking for permission, and we don't necessarily need capital like that. We're waiting for permission. We only need permission from ourselves. But a lot of that goes into, you have to step away. It's okay to put that phone down, step away from Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and all of that, because now the companies have caught on, and now we're all slaves to the algorithm. Now we've taken away, and you've allowed big corporations to, once again, shape and mold creation and creativity. Because now you go to most people's pages on Instagram, you can tell the people who are looking for monetization, all they have is a page full of reels.
Yeah.
And no content, no valuable content, right? If I see another twerk video, my ears are going to pop. Because we've attached everything. And that's the other part too. Sexualization is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Women can't do anything without being sexualized or marginalized. Or being sexualized is part of being marginalized. Right. Because right away you objectify them when you make them into something. You make them into just more or less. It's just lust. Same thing else. Objects. You start off as love. Yeah, they're objects. and then you can marginalize them after that. Then you put them in a circle. It's the same thing they did with Lizzo. Lizzo was super talented. You boost her sexuality. I'm watching the same thing with Chloe Bailey and Hailey. They came out, they had quiet girl next door. But what does the industry want to do? Every performance now is sexual. Never mind their voices, right? And it's not a knock to them. It's just watching how, and you know, I'm a student, right? But as well as a student, I'm also a fan. And it gets to a point to where I'm like, okay, the last 20 years, I've been watching the same thing. I can't turn on a radio station without hearing somebody talking about stealing a block and stealing someone that looks like them. That's a sickness.
Yeah.
And you're wondering why the world is so angry. You're wondering why we can't get together, because subconsciously in our mind, on our way here, this party, we listen to shoot them up, beat them up, do them dirty, do them savage. We listening to this the whole time. People sharing videos, it's fight this, it's fight that, it's violence. It's, you know, hey, we know it's out there. Positivity now is rare. That's the thing, you know, that's the thing that we really have to focus on, is getting back to finding a sense of community, right? And that's, you know, uplifting one another and holding one another accountable, and not judging, but just, hey, man, maybe we could do this a different way.
Man, I'm just overwhelmed with all the information and the facts and knowledge you just dropped. Yeah, that's a lot to chew on in a very good way. Like, man, we really appreciate you.
And likewise, all right. That's the other part too. Real quick, and I'll say, you don't see too many managers with a platform, right? Because they're just grinding themselves into a pulp, in a sense, for other people's success. And being a manager in this job, or an owner, is a thankless job, because the assault right now is on the people who conducted shady business. And I will say this to the young creators right now. I see it's an assault on managers, and that's the thing about it, is you need some type of formal experience. So if you've never worked a job, you don't want the first time that you deal with a CEO or deal with any type of boss to be one of the most powerful companies in the world, because they're negotiating from a position of leverage, and you don't even have proof of concept. That's how people get locked into these bad contracts, right? They take $10,000 and don't own their masters, because they don't think, they think, okay, well, I can buy myself out. Well, you know how much success you would have to have? And even then, maybe, depends on the language in your contract. Right. So for those of you who are turning a cold shoulder to managers and want to embrace lawyers more, if you thought lawyers or managers were getting over on you, what do you think a lawyer is going to do if you don't know?
Right.
You can't be ignorant in this. You cannot. Because, every lawyer, they have ethics, but every lawyer is not ethical. Clearly, that's why we have laws, and that's why we have lawyers, right? Because if people were ethical, we wouldn't need laws and we wouldn't need lawyers.
Man, Breezy, what you thinking over there?
Well, sometimes a person has to sit back and absorb. Okay, and right now is a great time for that, based on what Shon Cobain is sharing with us. There's a statement that's made that when you talk to somebody, they really don't hear you. They're already thinking about how they're going to respond back to what you're saying. Okay, so but this is a time, and that's true. I find that to be true. And so this is the time that you can sit back and absorb what Shon Cobain is conveying, and manifest that into some goodness, some positivity, some drive, desire, inspiration, education, and so on, knowledge, awareness, and so on and so forth. So it's good to sit back and absorb what he's got to share, and come out on the backside with a smile on your face, being feeling that you've elevated into a better being, a better person, and more knowledgeable about things that are transpiring, in this place we live in.
Yeah, most definitely. So
I appreciate that.
Before we wrap this up, we need to make sure that you let everybody know where they can follow you and check you out and stay up with what you're doing.
Yeah, okay. Well, keep it simple. Right now, Instagram, Shon Cobain, ShonCobain. I-N. Again, the emphasis on I, to focus on yourself. So catch me there, Instagram, really. And I really want, feedback from people, really want to hear other people. You don't necessarily have to ask me questions, but in this community, it's not inclusive, and people, what people think in their hardships are kind of overlooked, right? But if you're someone new, if you're a creator, if you need to know what to do, I'm not necessarily going to hold your hand through the process, but I will point you in the right direction. You need to be understood, or it needs to be understood that you are heard. So once again, I've always loved the platform, appreciate it. And really everything that Breezy said is my intention on these type of things and on my type of posts. And sometimes it's missed because people feel like you're talking at them, right? And I'm like, well, I'm not talking at you or to you. I'm talking to the problems that you're having. It has nothing to do with you, because we're more alike than we are different. So when I speak, it's always from a place, I intend for it to be a place of uplifting and community. So thank you all. Thank you both for having me here. I love Music Marvels. I look forward to growing it. I look forward to scaling together. And one day, I look for us to be sitting at a point to where we have the 97.9s and the 105s and all that stuff. I look forward to that. Mm-hmm. I know it's coming.
Yes, sir.
Yes. And thank you once again. We appreciate you. It's always a pleasure.
Always. Till next time. Be safe. Be well.
All right, and that does it for this week's edition of Music Marvels with Achickwitbeatz and Breezy Gipson. Once again, we thank you so much for joining us. We love having you rock with us. And it's always a good time, and we hope that you enjoy it too.
Yeah, this is it, man. Gaining momentum more and more, momentum. Hey, this thing is spreading. So we thank you. We thank all of the listeners wherever you're located. You could be in Antarctica, or you could be just right around the corner in Andy City, whatever. But thanks for taking the time to tune in, support us, listen to the rebroadcast, tell your friends, whatever, holler out the bus, train, whatever you're riding or driving. And because hey, we ready.
All right, so you know where to find us next time. Tune in, tell a friend, and we'll see you then. Peace.